What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drivin with Duck. Always on Facebook, most of the time on YouTube, and occasionally on IG. I apologize, I'm out of breath. I just worked 7 to 3 yesterday, went back to the crib, slept for 4 hours, and then went back and worked the overnight. I just left the gym. I'm just getting back into a groove because I'm finally set up on my regular schedule in Boston. I'm out of training, but now, I'm picking up some overtime, working a little extra in Boston, so, just getting back into a normal routine at the gym, and I went a little bit harder than I was going to. But anyways, I'm your host, Daniel Ducksworth. So we just got hit with like 2 feet of snow the other day, so I'm going to go take the general through the car wash. But I wanted to do like a sequel to the Drive about words. I talked about the listener taking ownership of the words that you speak. And that is part way of the conversation, right? There's 2 people that have to tango. It takes 2 people to dance. Someone has to lead and someone has to follow, right? So we're going to look at that the same way as in a conversation. So we're going to talk about now the person that's speaking. Now, when you are in a conversation, I said this last video, I said it 1,000,000 times, and I will continue to say, I consider myself a wordsmith. I consider myself a conversationalist. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I don't pull any punches. I don't sugarcoat. I speak with intention, right? When a person is conversating, when they're speaking, they owe it to themselves to speak their mind and speak in reality. I've always said that when I am talking to someone, when I'm saying something over social media or, whatever the case may be, no matter who they are, even if it's at work, anyone from the janitor all the way up to the CEO, I respect people enough to tell them exactly what I mean. And the reason why you do that is out of respect. If you don't like somebody, if you don't like something that they're doing, if you don't like how they act, if you don't like how they treat you, you owe it to them as a person. As a general rule of thumb, you owe it to a person to tell them exactly what you feel with pinpoint accuracy. There is no need for you to hold back or for you to hem and haw about what you feel. You don't need a 25-cent word to explain a 2-cent situation. All right, it doesn't take this whole explanation of, well, I think maybe if you said it this way, maybe I might take it differently, or I'm this type of learner, or whatever. No, if someone's just disrespectful, you just tell them, I don't like the way you address me, period. I don't need you to say it to me any other way. Like, if someone is a certain type of person and they speak in a certain type of dialect, or, if they speak in a certain type of tone, that's fine. But you just tell them, I don't appreciate the way that you address me. And again, it's that whole thing like I talked about in the last video. It's up to them to do with it what they will. If they continue to address you in that certain way, you've already given them ownership of how you're going to react. Regardless, if you don't respond well to how a person speaks to you, you can either A, ignore it and not pay attention to how they speak to you, or B, you two can devise a way, potentially, to come to a mutual understanding of, okay, well, that's who you are as a person, so therefore, I guess what we need to do is we need to come to a mutual understanding to where I can meet you in the middle. If I feel you're starting to escalate to a point where I'm going to escalate and we're going to meet each other with fisticuffs, maybe we need to figure out some way that we can address each other. Maybe we don't talk to each other when we're both feeling heightened. Maybe we communicate via email for a little while. Maybe we, conversate through a mediator. Maybe we have a third party involved so that we can potentially get past this impasse where we are, right? So when you're the person that's speaking, you also owe it to yourself to say exactly what you mean. Because if you pussyfoot around everything and you don't exactly say what you want, you can't blame the other person for not understanding where you're coming from. If you're not direct in what you say, then you can't blame them for not getting an exact idea of what you're trying to tell them. It's almost like if you're working on a project and you need a particular tool. If all you're doing is pointing at the toolbox, they're not going to understand what you're asking for by just you pointing in the general direction of a couple dozen tools and saying, I need something out of that box. That's not going to help. You need to be very specific. Okay? And on top of that, let's say you are nailing something into a board, or you need to, and you say to someone, I need you to grab me something out of the toolbox that I can use to nail this nail into this board. If they give you a heavy ass monkey wrench or a ratchet, you can't blame that person, because you know what? It will do the job, it just won't do it correctly. And on top of that, those two tools that I named aren't designed to be used for that task. But some people, you have to explain things to them differently than you would another person. One person that is more mechanically inclined would understand, okay, this person needs a hammer. Some people aren't that mechanically inclined. You can't assume another person's knowledge. So you have to speak to the level that the person understands. But even still, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. Like I said in the beginning, it takes two. It's the same way with dancing, right? You got to have someone to lead, someone to follow, right? It's volleying, right? Back and forth. You have to understand where the other person is coming from. You have to speak to their level. I'm not saying people are stupid. I'm not saying people, can't be as smart as you. I'm not saying people aren't as literal as you. I'm not saying that people can't be wordsmiths or conversationalists like I am. People tell me I'm too intense, like the mother of my children says. I said it last video. But what I am saying is sometimes you need to take a step back and be like, what would be the best way to address this person? How can I get my point across without coming across like an asshole? How can I get my point across without being condescending or mean or rude? Or in what way can I speak without making this person feel like I'm attacking them, right? Because what happens is, if you come across in a way that's not attractive to the person you're speaking to, guess what's going to happen? They're going to shut down and miss probably 50% of what you say. So it's an art form. When you're conversating, that's what makes a conversationalist or a wordsmith, right? You have to be able to speak to what's going to reach someone's ears. Now, like I also said last video, if I'm doing my job and explaining to you what I'm trying to tell you, we're both picturing the same thing. We're both working together to make it to that same end result. If I am painting a perfect picture, you and I are seeing the same thing at the same time. There's no abstractness going on. We both understand exactly what's happening at the same time, and I'm painting a perfect picture. We are both getting the same meaning from the same song. That's how we're getting down. That is exactly what we're learning.
Thank you. Please.
Now, sorry, I am about to go through the car wash. So, like I was saying, you have to be the type of person that is patient, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics. Now, when you explain things and you're going through your day-to-day and you're trying to have those conversations, the reason why I say you need to do it in such a way is because if the person that you're speaking with doesn't understand the conversation, or if they do things that totally blatantly disregard the way that you're feeling or the way that you addressed them previously, you can go back to that conversation and say, I know we discussed this. I told you how I felt the last time we talked about it, and you still don't do what I need in order for me to feel safe, in order for me to feel cared for, in order for me to feel emotionally secure, in order for me to feel like myself, in order for me to feel stable, in order for me to feel like I matter in your world. You're not adhering to what I asked and the principles and values that matter to me. I feel like you don't listen because you're not doing what I asked. So these are things you need to be able to go back to. And that's why you need to be direct and succinct and be able to recall the conversation that you had. So that's just something that I was thinking about in relation to that conversation. So even when you're talking, it is also on you as the person that is speaking. You need to be just as direct and be mindful and inclusive as the person that's listening. So this has been another edition of Driving with Duck. I am so freaking tired. But if you feel so inclined, Facebook, search bar, hashtag Drivin with Duck, no G. Instagram, duckbeer_the_black. YouTube, Drivin, space, with, space, duck. Hit that bell. Get the notifications when I drop a new video. I wish you all the best Friday. Love and light, my friends.